Hey, what's up everyone? Tedrick85 here, and today I'm going to be talking about Episode 5 of Book 4 of Legend of Korra, titled Enemy at the Gates. And as I said last week, the primary focus of this episode is going to be Kuvira's advance towards Zaofu, and of course that's where Sue and her family live. So, before I talk about that, though, there is a little bit of, like, a side story going on in this episode, and I should mention it right off the bat before I get into the heart of the episode. And that's concerning Asami and that, because here in the episode, we end up seeing her coming face to face with her father, Hiroshi Sato, for the first time since Book 1, when he tried to kill her. And she couldn't even look at him and that, and you could tell that him being in prison is taking its toll on him because his hair is pure white now. And Asami she's just so upset with him and everything and that, she couldn't even look at him. And, Hiroshi in there looked kind of sympathetic, but at the same time, though, what he did, and that, especially towards his own daughter, was unforgivable. Which Asami said of her own mouth that she doesn't know how in the world he was able to do that. And how she says that she isn't sure she's going to be able to forgive him ever again and that. So, here they didn't have much of a conversation to begin with, and she ends up leaving him, and here she ends up sitting in the Avatar Korra Park in the Republic City and that, and you can tell she's still hurt from her meeting with her dad, and here she ends up seeing, in particular, she sees this little girl playing with her dad, and I'm not sure what kind of game they were playing, but here she saw that, and here she decided to go to her father once again, which she reiterated what she said earlier in that, and she said that she said the awful things in that to him because she wanted him to feel hurt because of the way that he hurt her during the whole Equalist thing in Book 1. And, here, what she ends up deciding to do is pull out a Pai Sho board, and she decides to play Pai Sho with him a little bit, which he says that nothing would have made him happier. So, it's nice to see that even though Asami knows and we know how evil of a person Hiroshi is, that she's trying to find at least a little bit of closure with her dad, and even if it means bringing back a little bit of childhood memories by playing Pai Sho, I just think that shows how strong of a character Asami is, and that someone like her can possibly forgive someone like Hiroshi, which I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, but the fact that she's even talking to her dad and even facing him after what he did throughout Book 1, it speaks volumes in that, so it's going to be interesting how that little side story goes along. But yeah, you can definitely tell how strong and independent Asami has become. You know how you can tell that she got hurt and that she started crying and that when she faced him for the first time since his incarceration and that. But at the same time, I don't think it's gonna be anything that's really gonna break her down emotionally and that. And you could tell by the way she pulled out the Pai Sho board and that, just trying to find closure in that. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what all comes out of this in future episodes and that. But the main thing about this episode and that is, like I said at the beginning of this video, and that is Kuvira and her army are advancing towards Zaofu, which the people there, like the metal bending birds, try to tell Sue about that, and which Sue replied, it's kind of late to tell anybody now because Kuvira's forces are already here. But the good news for Sue is that Avatar Korra and the airbending kids, Janora, Iki, and Milo, are coming along in that. And I think it's interesting because here, Avatar Korra, you can tell that she's learned quite a bit since the first time we saw her in Book 1. And she says that she wants to try to talk to Kuvira and hopefully she can be reasoned with. Much to Milo's chagrin and that he wants her to fight since she's able to go in the Avatar state again, which she says, you know what, the old me used to fight, but now I'm going to try to figure out how to do this diplomatically and that. So here, even before Korra arrives in that, Kuvira comes face to face with Sue, and along with Kuvira is of course Batur Jr. in that, which he even said in the episode that he used to consider Zaofu his home, but not so much anymore, and that he hasn't considered it his home in a long time. So you can tell that he has the utmost attention towards Kuvira and her views in that. And you see a little bit of a conversation between Sue and Kuvira and that, and here, as much as we expected it, it really didn't amount to a whole much. Sue stood her ground and Kuvira stood her ground. And Kuvira told Sue that she had 24 hours to stand down and sign the treaty, or else her forces were going to come in and take over Zaofu. And after this is when Korra meets Sue and that. And of course, Sue's extremely happy to see Korra for the first time in years. And Korra asked if there's anything that she can do to help in that. And Sue was letting her know what the situation was. And Korra tells her that she's going to try to talk to Kuvira and that and see if she can be reasoned with. And up until later in the episode, I thought it was surprising because Sue pretty much told Korra that Kuvira can't be reasoned with and that, and she should stop Kuvira by force and that, try to bring her down once and for all. And I was shocked to hear her say this at first, but then they go off into a little bit of a flashback, and we get to see we actually find out that after Ba Sing Se was liberated by Zuhir and that, and after Zuhir ends up getting stopped by Korra and the gang, that the United Republic actually wanted Sue to lead the reconstruction of the Earth Kingdom and that, which Sue, you could tell she was honored by it, but at the same time though she said that her place is at Zaofu and that, and she doesn't envision putting her philosophy upon an entire nation. And Kuvira was by her side at the time, but here you can tell that she had a completely opposite train of thought than Sue, because Kuvira came up front and said that someone should step up and try to unite the Earth Kingdom and bring it to where it was before, which Sue reiterated by saying that her place is in Zaofu and that, which Sue even told Korra that this moment right here where they were talking with Tenzin and that moment pretty much caused a rift between her and Kuvira. So here Kuvira ended up convincing Batur Jr. to join her side and have him betray his family and that, by having him go off and try to reunite the Earth Kingdom, which is what they've been doing ever since. Of course, it's now being labeled the Earth Empire and that, but you can tell the strain between Batur Jr. and the rest of the family and that, and there's also a strain with Opal and that, especially with Bolin, because especially early on in the episode of his unwavering support towards Kuvira and that, which he said before that he sees Kuvira as being like a version of Korra a little bit and trying to bring balance in that, and you tell that Opal and Bolin got into a little bit of an argument, which Bolin actually starts yelling in that, trying to convince Opal that what he and Kuvira are doing are right. But Opal had to rebut by saying, you know what, have you ever thought about what happens after they've been liberated and that? You know, have you ever thought about what's going on with those people and that, and how you pretty much they're being occupied in that, and they're having to be forced to um, have their allegiance towards Kuvira against their own will, to try to just for the sole purpose of keeping their towns alive. And here Bolin ended up not having any of that, and here he ends up getting mad at Opal and that. And here what ends up happening is that Kuvira ends up asking Bolin to be part of her inner circle and that, because she feels that he can be trusted, which Bolin agrees. But even he, later on in the episode, sees after a while just how much of power hungry that Kuvira has become, and even he is starting to have his doubts over the way that Kuvira's policies are being implemented throughout the Earth Empire. And Bolin's not the only one that's having second doubts about their allegiance with Kuvira, and as we can see that Varric is having second thoughts too, especially with the technology that Kuvira wants him to do research on in regards to the spirit mines, which we see early in the episode, in that he tries to document the power, and that he's trying to harness the spirit mine's energy, and that to try to use as almost like a battery, and that to try to use its power to re-energize the Earth Kingdom and that, and try to make them technologically more advanced than what they were. But things end up going awry in that, and here he tries to reason with Kuvira and saying that the power in that is too great in that, and that only bad is going to come out of this, which Kuvira ends up threatening Varric and that by having him suspended over metal tracks and that on the train that they were on, which Varric reluctantly keeps his allegiance with Kuvira and that, but later on in the episode, Bolin, with his second thoughts, ends up finding Varric and his assistant Jolie, and they try to break out of they try to escape from Kuvira's forces and that, but through these really cool robots and that, pretty much what we saw in book one that Hiroshi Sato had, but I think they're more portable, and I think it's really cool in that. As here, they tried to escape in that, but Batar Jr. ends up finding out that they've escaped in that, so he ends up labeling them fugitives, so he and a couple of his people end up chasing after them, and unfortunately for Bolin, Jolie, and Varric, they didn't end up going too far, and in a big battle between these big mechanical robots and that ensues in that, and after a back and forth fight, Bateau Jr. and his forces end up capturing Bolin, Varric, and Jolie, which he ends up taking them back to Kuvira. Kuvira wants Bolin and Jolie to go to a re-education camp, and then have Varric go back to the his research in that under very close and armed supervision, as she put it. And just as she was able to send him out, Jolie ends up stepping up and pledging her allegiance to Kuvira and that, and pretty much slam dunking Varric in front of his face, saying that he never appreciated her and that, and no matter what she did, he never got her respect in that where she never got his respect, or I should say. And she ends up declaring her undying allegiance towards Kuvira and that, which Kuvira ends up letting Jolie off the hook and saying that Bolin and Varric should end up learning from Jolie's example in that. So Bolin and Varric end up being taken off in that, which has me thinking, which I'm not sure if she's just saying this just to get out of it, or if she actually did mean what she said about Varric and is pledging her allegiance towards Kuvira, because Varric did end up has really not treated her all that well, and I like to think that Jolie has not fully pledged her allegiance to Kuvira 100%, but at the same time, though, in a way, no one can really blame her. Just a simple fact that how she was treated under Varric, but at the same time, though, as much as one can say that they can't blame her for defecting from Varric, that her path of being along Kuvira isn't really all that right either. So, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens concerning that. And here, even Korra tried to reason with Kuvira and that, and Kuvira ends up agreeing with saying that if Korra can reason with Sue and that within 24 hours, and there'll be pretty much a truce in that. But as we can see in the end of the episode, Korra tries to find Sue, but Sue's nowhere to be found, which is much to Korra's horror in that. So, and that's pretty much how the episode ended. So, but yeah, there's definitely a lot going on in that, and I'm thinking the next episode is gonna be like almost like a second part to this episode. So, it's gonna be interesting to find out exactly what happens next week and whether Korra can settle this disputed that. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching, and Have a happy and safe Halloween.